Here we have NC Induchoodan sir with us. He was the former Deputy Conservator of Forest at Kerala Forest Department. He is an ecologist and a scientist too, and also a environmental activist. And presently he is working at the Green Daughters Association, and he is a public relation officer at Jnanayogi too. So now we will discuss on the topic how we can protect and conserve our sacred groves in Kerala. So let's we can start the intro.
See, man's greediness to dominate
Yes.
and conquer the resources on the earth has created catastrophic changes on the surface of the earth's crust. And this has made the existence of many species threatened, and many species are becoming extinct every year. So when this ecological degradation and deforestation is going on at an alarming pace, here in India we have got a network of sacred groves wherein the inherent diversity of the fauna and flora are preserved for the present and future generations. And we owe to our religious beliefs and customs. And we have got respect for the nature. For our traditional forefathers, this nature was not only a resource. We believe that we are part of this nature, and this nature is part of us. Aham Brahmasmi. So whatever happens to this nature will happen to us. Whatever happens to us will happen to the nature. The interconnectedness. And our traditional forefathers, they experienced the interconnectedness with the nature. With biotic and abiotic beings, they experienced the interconnectedness. So this was the deep links between man and nature were fully understood by the ancient wise men of India, who has devised many methods by which the people voluntarily, as part of their life, they adopted many techniques for the conservation of nature. When we compare the modern techniques, modern regulations, laws, enactions, legislations, etc., when we try to make new rules and regulations, the conservation, the object of conservation, that is the big forest, environment, and nature, seems to be something set aside from the common man. They don't have any involvement in their conservation. But in the traditional methods, people are involved. It is a part of the day-to-day activity. So it is very economic and efficient means of conservation. We have got, Indians had many methods. Like we had considered many trees and plants as the holy plants, sacred animals were there, carried concern as the vehicle of certain gods and goddesses. Then we have got holy rivers, sacred mountains, entire land was sacred for us. The nature was mother for us. Mada Prithvi Putroham Prithuha. That's Atharva Veda says that we are the sons of the soil, and this soil is a mother of all of us. So we considered that we had the obligation to protect this nature, mother earth. So we believed that. So every living being, every organisms, we consider it as a manifestation of the divine being. These are the visible manifestation of the invisible being. That is what we believed and we practice. It is not only that we taught it, we experience it. Our forefathers actually experienced the interconnected with nature. So it is far different from the Western concept of resource, entirely different. Here in our sacred groves, the trees are considered to be as the Bhudaganas of the main deity in the forest. So in this network of sacred groves, in area it varies from 1 or 2 cents up to 25 acres, 50 hectares, etc. So very large groves are also there. But due to this small size of the sacred groves and due to enlargement of the agricultural fields, many indigenous vegetation were cleared. So if we want to see the relic vegetation, what is the potential vegetation of our land? What is the potential vegetation which each type of soil can support? This relic vegetation will tell us. So for afforestation activities and all, for introducing agroforestry techniques, we can use the seedlings or trees of the species conserved in the sacred groves. Since it is a taboo nobody dares to touch it. So it's a belief that this, if we do something to the forest, it will affect us. So connected with all the sacred groves, inevitably, invariably, in most of the groves, there is a pond also, water bodies also there. So when the water body is there, forest around, when it rains, water enters the soil. So it helps to charge the earth with water. So water is charged and water table is maintained. There are certain areas like Edailakad Island in Tirkaripur, where when all the neighboring islands are got salt water, this only island, which is having around 20 acres of the sacred grove, has good drinking water. Because rainwater is conserved as a filament of rainwater, good water there conserved. So the people from the neighboring islands come here, take water. So water conservation is very good. And if there is a grove, up to 2 or 3 kilometers, the water table is maintained. So charging the earth helps. And when the absorption of carbon dioxide and conversion of solar energy to biomass, actually we know photosynthesis is a thermodynamic process, exothermic reaction, endothermic reaction by which solar energy is trapped. So the neighboring as a temperature is reduced. That temperature is stored as biomass. That is what is actually happens. Normally we have studied that carbon dioxide plus water gives carbohydrates. But carbon dioxide plus water plus 23,400 calories of heat is necessary to get 1 gram of biomass. So entire biomass helps us to convert the heat energy to chemical that is stored. And since these are indigenous vegetation, lot of endemic species are conserved in this. We have got around more than 2,500 sacred groves presently in Kerala. Earlier we had more than 25,000. The record says Logan's manual, body launch diary, etc. More than 25,000 sacred groves were once existed in this land, but now hardly 2,500. But even in this vegetation, in my study, I could record 722 species, flora, 722 species, of which more than 30% are endemic to this land, endemic to Western Ghats. It is found only in the Western Ghats. So it's a reservoir of the or gene bank of the land. Hence it is distributed from all the altitude, from south to north, west to east. So for different variations, we can see land race also. So land race or the varieties of the same species are found here. So they can be used as genetic material for experimental further research. And the species in the lofty magnificent form, which is not found even in the reserve forest also. Where there had been fellings in reserve forests. Selection felling, clear felling, etc. had been there. In Kerala, we had stopped selection felling and clear felling only in 1980s. 85 we have stopped selection felling also. So the growth in the even in the reserve forest is after 85. But here in sacred groves, they are preserved for generations. We don't know, from time immemorial it has been preserved. So the lofty magnificent form in which it can come, up to which size it can grow, that we can see from the reserve forest. Then there are a lot of birds also. Even in one single sacred grove, I could record 63 species. It is in Iringol in Perumbavoor. So one day, random check, 63 species of birds were there. Very large predator birds are also there. White-bellied sea eagle, then many hornbills, even civet cats, different types of snakes, different frogs, many different types of fishes, etc. You will be astonished to know in Bangladesh there is a sacred grove in Bangladesh, still it is preserved there. That species, one species of fish is only found in that sacred. It is found only in the sacred grove, nowhere else in the world. Such rare species are there. In Kerala there is a species called Kunstilleria carolensis. It's a climber, Kunstilleria carolensis. It is found only in sacred groves. It has been reported only from sacred grove. Such species are there. Then many endangered species. More than 18 threatened species are there existing in sacred groves. So in terms of biological conservation, the efficiency of sacred groves is very high. Very high. When we compare the total area of the sacred groves in Kerala and compare the Silent Valley National Park, It is only 90,000 square kilometers. With 90,000 square kilometers, it is able to conserve around 1,500 species. But this 720 species, hardly total area is hardly less than 5,000 hectares. But so the efficiency of conservation is more, and the land race is there. Variety of the sacred groves are also there. So since we can get an idea about what is the critical minimum area required for preserving the ecological condition, ecological status of the sacred groves. And it also gives a clear picture of what happens when heavy wind blows from the Arabian Sea, what happens to the vegetation. Wherever the sacred groves are small, the height is less, because the trees are not able to raise its head because of the weathering action of the or cutting action of the wind. Its young meristematic tissues are not able to withstand desiccating winds. So it slowly bows its head down. This is what is happening to our agriculture ecosystem also. So when there are no trees which will raise its head up and deflect the desiccating winds, total height of this agriculture spectrum will reduce. When the agriculture spectrum height is reduced, in geometric regression our productivity will decrease. And if there is a tree which is 10 feet high, suppose there are a mango tree, if it produces 100 mangoes, it is 20 feet, it will produce more than 5,000 mangoes. So in geometric progression, with the increasing height, the productivity will increase. So this is vice versa also. When the height decreases, geometric regression, so this is a clear indication why the productivity of the land is decreasing, because big trees are not there. When we consider there is no, it's a useless tree, cut it. People are interested only in cash crops. So this has reflected on the productivity of the entire agricultural ecosystem also. And the butterflies, hundreds of butterflies which is habitated in each sacred groves, exercise biological control over the neighboring areas, and the birds also exercise biological control. So pest incidence is less. So existence of sacred groves helps us for organic cultivation. It helps to reduce the application of chemical fertilizers. So quality of food is also increases. Quality of water is increases. Quality of food is increased. Quality of the agriculture crop is increased. Quality of the soil is increased. Entire hygiene of the atmosphere is increased. So the sacred groves have a long-lasting impact on the entire, we can say, on all the fields of the human beings. It has got ecological values, it has got economic values, medicinal values, even cultural values, philosophical values. It's a great message is given to the humanity. And this concept of sacred groves, considering nature as sacred, nature as powerful, nature as God, that is a solution for the world ecological crisis. Now the conflict is increasing, the development and conservation conflict is increasing. If we have this philosophy in mind, this conflict will reduce. That is a message which India gives to the entire humanity. Our Bhagavad Gita says, chapter 3, Sahayajna Prajasrishta Purovaja Prajapati. That means Prajapati has already said, in different scriptures earlier it has said that all species are Sahayajna, they are co-workers. Working, the natural working is Yajna. Yajna is whatever is good for others. It's called Yajna. All species are doing their suttam, they are working as their nature. That means it is an Yajna for the entire ecosystem. Suppose one butterfly goes, takes honey, collects honey from a flower, it is doing Yajna, it is dispersion of pollination, it is helping. One bird eats a fruit, goes somewhere, puts it seed somewhere, it is helping dispersion of seeds. Like that, each and every species is helping for the sustenance of life on earth. When there is a tree falls. When the tree falls, the soluble calcium will get dissolved and go deep into the soil. Before it is dissolved, some fungi or algae comes there, absorbs it. If the lifespan of these fungi is very small, immediately when it starts decaying, before it starts decaying, some snails come there, takes this calcium. So that calcium which cannot be taken there, it absorbed by the crabs. then the crabs are eaten by the fox, then it's put again on the top of the mountains. Like that, if you watch each and every species, they are helping for the maintenance of the ecosystem. So in the world, we have considered, our forefathers identified that there is no useless species. Each and every species is ecologically important. It is placed in the exact place, because God, out of His wisdom and intelligence, has created all these species. That we have to understand. And there is a divine guidance within each and every species. Just like Ram and Sita is there in Hanuman's heart, this divine is guiding each and every species. Only because of this divine guidance, these species are able to survive, irrespective of the catastrophic changes we are making on the Earth's crust. They are able to survive. Suppose we are cutting some mountains, filling some lakes, ponds, etc. Even then they are surviving. Especially small mammals, small animals, microbes, etc. are surviving only because there is a divine guidance. We say Ishavasimidam Sarvam. Or our Brihadaranya Upanishad said, Iham Chalogam, Param Chalogam. Wherever the species are there, God is dwelling inside them. Ego Vashi Sarva Bhudeshu Buddha. There is only one God, it is dwelling. Buddha means Rahasya. It is as a secret form. We cannot, it is not apparently not visible. It is there inside Buddha. So it is guiding like that. And Bhagavad Gita also says, just like engine is working with all the parts, the entire universe is working, in the Hridayakash, God is there. God is there. That is why God is called Antaryami. It is Antaryami of each and every species. That is called Purusha. It is in the body of species. So, Bhudatma, Sarva Bhudatma. All our scriptures, all our Upanishads, Mandika Upanishad, Brihadaranya Upanishad, Vishnu Upanishad, all Upanishads says these are the manifestation of the same divine, and it is having a divine guidance. They are surviving because of divine guidance. One who is enlightened, he is able to see the divine inside each and every species. Our forefathers, they are living in the divine network. They are connected with the divine network. So inside, when they are connected, just like the internet connection, if we are connected to the divine network, then we are also able to see the entire universe. We will also get divine guidance. But nowadays, our people are not guided by the heart, they are guided by the brain. So brain is easy, can be contaminated. By heart is divine, it cannot be contaminated. So this approach to all species will reduce the conflict and will help us to conserve nature with the most economic and efficient, which is not only efficient but it is also economic. Without a single price from the government side, we are able to conserve this. That is the beauty of the traditional conservation. But now with some anti-God, atheist beliefs, anti-cultural propaganda, etc., lot of threats are there. Then certain people think, without thinking deep, they just have an observation, apparent observation, and they think these are superstitious beliefs. If they go deep, they will understand this is truth. But they are not ready to experience, but they are ready to criticize. That's a threat for the entire system, belief system, and the entire philosophy. So this implicit values inside the sacred truths has to be made explicit by our talks and discourses with the general public, especially with the younger generations. And the increasing demand for the land, that has created a threat for the sacred groves. And even there are certain pujaris, certain people who are ready to do avahanam and keep the sacred grove somewhere. The deity is done avahanam and then put somewhere. There is a threat, especially the serpent deities. For exact avahanam, I don't know which is the exact English word, I don't know. The deity is taken from some place and deposited somewhere, captured there, then the forest is cut. So there is also a threat. Then the development, making some, in certain sacred groves, especially in North Kerala, we can see a part of the sacred grove has made into school playground. Then some sacred grove through roads have been built. Then big temples, constructing big temples inside the groves is also a threat to the entire ecosystem. What our forefathers thought, that was even with the sound of the bell of the, you say that Teyyam or Velichappad, even with that ringing bell also, this should not be affected. So when those Teyyams and Velichappad, when they enter the sacred grove, they used to keep their chalanga outside and enter the grooves. There is a practice. So even with the sound of the bell, this ecosystem is not affected. And people are not taking even the leaf from the sacred grooves. They don't take. So it's a belief. It's a strong belief. It's a conviction inside that. The same divine life is existing both in us and the other beings. There is a conviction among the Indians. That philosophy has to be again propagated, and people have to experience. It's an experience. If you think about this and contemplate inside a sacred root, we can also experience. We will get a divine guidance also. There's a remedy which we can do now. And construction of sacred, making new sacred groves. Certain people are doing, certain schools, even some Christian institutions have done like that. Certain temples also, they are ready to make certain sacred groves. As far as sacred groves are concerned, there is nothing, we need not look upon Vastu and all, because it is divine, and the tea itself is divine. It is the habitat, it can be had anywhere. Only inside our houses, the Vastus are there, but along with temples and at public places, lot of places are there. Now there is a scheme, Kuttivanam, Kudivallathinu Kuttivanam. There is a scheme. There is a small forest, there is a drinking water is ensured. Earlier we thought that 1/7 of the, Parashurama has said in that, 1/7 of the land should be earmarked for the snakes. That means 1/7 of the land should be considered as sacred groves. So what is the 1/7? How much area is conserved? That's a belief was there. There is a lot of biomass, biofertilizer, manure, green manure used to get from sacred groves. Certain areas are earmarked only for green manure. Such places are also there. And people affected by snake bite is also less when there is a safe place for the snake to live in. Now there is no habitat for the snakes. Snakes are coming out automatically. And where when sacred grove is there, we are worshipping that. Actually, we are touching the consciousness level of each and every species. There is a consciousness level. If you touch that consciousness level, they will become mild. They will become friendly with us. Actually, none of these species are wild. They are all very mild. Only because of our atrocities on them, they have become wild. We call them wild animals. Actually, each and every species are mild animals, milder than the human beings. So, once we recognize that, it is very easy to conserve sacred groves, and the man-animal conflict can be reduced, and this biological knowledge of the people, the younger generation, can be increased if we label the plants there, introduce students to the sacred groves. A lot of things can be done in this, and we can recognize certain owners of the sacred groves or trust, give some awards. Even government can give tax exemption for those people, because when the land is around 50,000 to 10 lakh in Kerala, people afford to do that only because of their belief that we have to respect. Even in Cochin Corporation, there are people, all corporation, Trivandrum Corporation, Calicut corporations, where the land is 50 lakhs per cent also, people earmark it for sacred groves. That's a strong belief. We should encourage them, appreciate such people in public, give some awards for them. Then it will be easy. And have some discourses in the sacred groves. Call some people, students from colleges, schools, etc. Tell them about nature, what our forefathers believed, what was our concept about nature. This message has to be, these values, far-reaching values has to be explicited and imparted to the next generation. So this can be used as an effective tool for spreading the message of conservation. There are a lot of rites which are done observed in sacred groves. Example, Kalamaluthu, Paattu, Pambum Paattu, Pullom Paattu, then Theyyams. All these things carry a great message, and it is a ritual art. A ritual art is also preserved because of that. Especially the so-called latest development of casteism in the Hindu community, which has developed recently for the last few centuries, that is less in sacred groves. In temples, well-built temples, only high caste people can enter. But in sacred groves, the so-called backward classes, they become deities. They have dressed themselves as Theyyam, and they perform. When they are in that form, their words are considered as the words of the divine, words of the deity. So we can see what is the impact of that. Each and every person, they are God. That concept is there. Irrespective of the caste, all the people can enter the sacred grooves. And what I think is, in well-built temple, this caste separation item etc. has come to maintain the purity. Because it's a Tantra Shastra, certain forms are there, certain rituals are observed, so hygiene is required. Even a Brahmin cannot enter the temple without taking bath. If somebody dies in his family, he cannot enter. So it is connected with the hygiene. Later on, it has become a rule. So when the cultural degradation has come, it has become the rule of the land. So these sacred grooves, we have to promote sacred grooves. We can create sacred grooves in each and every schools or colleges. One sacred grooves are there. It's a Saraswati Kshetra. We can build a sacred groove. The message will be conveyed. So much good atmosphere will be there. In Israel, you might have heard that in each housing colony, there is a small sacred groove like this, 10 or 20 cents. The air is taken from there to the house inside. So it has the effect of air conditioning. That effect is there. Because fresh air, which is less warm, or cool air is liberated inside the house from the groove. Then hot air goes out from the chimney. That can be used in colleges also. If there is a big sacred grooves, big panchayat, that model grooves can be made. So if you think irrespective of the caste, this can be considered a good effective mechanism. Even for ensuring drinking water in a panchayat, a sacred groove can be there. People can voluntarily make sacred grooves. Sacred grooves this is made because our forefathers clearly understood the connection with the man and environment. We clearly understood, and we could clearly experience the divine connectedness was there. If the present generation cannot experience the connectedness, at least let them experience the physical connection, the scientific connection, ecological connection that can be there. Gradually, the spiritual connection can be established. Gradually, the philosophical message can be conserved. But creating new sacred grooves, conserving sacred grooves, making larger sacred groove is a need of the hour.
Sir, you have already mentioned about the birds and everything. So can you mention some of the trees which we can find in sacred grooves?
Oh, there are many endangered species like white cedar. White cedar is not endangered; it is endangered. White cedar is endangered. Then Hopia racoflaya. Then endemic species like Vetiria indica, Hopia parviflora, Artocarpus hirsutus. Then very endangered Blepharistima, which is called Mukkannambirikku in Malayalam. Then many orchids are there. Terrestrial orchids are there. Epiphytic orchids are there. Like that, lot of species are preserved in sacred grove. Then type of forest, freshwater Myristica swamp forest is found only in sacred groves. We have got a few sacred groves, say freshwater Myristica swamp forest near Trivandrum Division Reserve Forest. Outside that, it is found only in sacred groves. The type of forest. Actually, this sacred grove could protect or conserve 23 different types of forests. Majority of them are West Coast, tropical, lowland, evergreen forest. So, southern, West Coast, tropical, lowland, evergreen forest are preserved in the sacred groves. There is another theory also. The nature of the water also, moisture. When the moisture content is less in the sacred groves, the species composition is different. When the moisture content is more, it gives a clear picture. If there is more water in our soil in Kerala, it persuades freshwater Myristica swamp forest. Myristica species are plenty. If the water is less, dry evergreen forests are there. Manilkara, Elanyi, etc. Such species are which thrives, or Garcinia species, Kodambuli. Such species which are evergreen, resistant evergreen is also there. Evergreen, different types of evergreen species are there. Evergreen species which are light tolerant. There are certain type of species which is shade tolerant. So when the area of the sacred grove is large, shade tolerant evergreen species are conserved there. When the grove is small and disturbed, light heliophytic evergreens, that means evergreen species which require light, that is preserved there. So that clear picture we can see. And with the disturbance of the vegetation, exotic species increases, weeds increases. When the grove becomes small, the fringe effect is more. Boundary effect. Boundary effect is more means exotic species enter. Such beautiful messages, beautiful scientific interpretations are there. We can understand the ecosystem very well. And some transition species, ecotone species we say. When we enter from one ecotone to another ecotone, another ecosystem, there is an ecotone species. Transition zone, there are certain species. Such beautiful things can be understood from the sacred groups. So good scientific material for study and research.
So how can we protect, sir? How can we protect this sacred grove? How can we maintain this if we are constructing a sacred grove or if we are maintaining some sacred grove?
And the best thing is, larger the area is better conservation. Ecosystem is better. Then if there is water, if there is a pond, it is all the more good. So this will affect the water flow of the entire area. So we try to make the larger areas or add some areas. Wherever there are small grooves, you can plant trees. Whatever species are already available there can be planted. Or whatever trees are naturally growing in that locality can be planted in the sacred groves. There is one in Malappuram district. There is one species, Poeciloneron indicum. It is called Bhudangalli. Bhudangalli, the species. Botanical name is Poeciloneron indicum. It is highly endangered endemic plant. Outside that sacred grove, within 85 kilometers, the species is not found. If you want to find the species, we have to go to deep silent valley. We have to go to find the species. But a plenty of number of hundreds of the trees preserved in that Mukkola Kavu near Changarangulam in Malappuram. Such many examples are there. Near Kannur, there is a type of forest, Syzygium memiceron. It is found only in North Canara. After this sacred grove, it is seen only in North Canara. So such beautiful variety or special, we call edaphic forest, which is attributed to the soil conditions. Such species are also there. A lot of, I am not going deep into the academic ecological side. Whatever is apparently is visible, easy to conserve. So plant maximum species, indigenous species, balance nature will take care. And all species of birds and small mammals will come automatically because they are all searching or hunting for beautiful, good habitat. Small mongoose and if we just leave one cent of land, mongoose and snakes will come there. Even more than a dozen birds will come there. They are actually hunting for habitat. There is no resting place for the butterflies and birds. So it's very highly warranting. Creating a sacred grove is highly warranting. It's a good solution for the degradation of the ecosystem, in global warming, and a good solution.
It was such a great interview, sir. I have gathered a lot of knowledge from you regarding the sacred groves. So thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity to interview you, sir. Thank you so much.